Good evening, everyone. Um, Welcome to the Averett University College Readiness Workshop. I'm JP Novin, the CEO of Plexus Student Network, and I'm honored and excited to serve as a moderator for today's event. We have now well over 200 people that have joined this workshop. The workshop is scheduled to be 60 minutes long. Our meeting today will be divided into 3 informative sections. To kick things off, each of our esteemed panelists from Averett University will provide insight for approximately 10 to 15 minutes on essential topics related to university selection, the admission process, and financial aid. The second part of the presentation are questions and answers that will take place after the panelists have presented. But as you could see, there's a Q&A button here on the bottom. Feel free to post your questions, and we'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can during the course of this presentation. Lastly, at the end of our session, we will highlight a few questions for our panelists to answer. We'll also discuss the process of how you could qualify for Averett University $1,000 and $5,000 scholarships. So without further delay, let me introduce our distinguished panelists. We are privileged to have Dr. Franks, the president of Averett University, as one of our panelists. Dr. Franks is not only an influential figure in higher education, but also one of the most experienced university presidents in the nation, having led Averett University since 2008. With us today, we also have Mr. Matthew Mann, the Director of Admission at Averett University, and Mr. Carl Bradsher, the Director of Financial Aid at Averett University. We're thrilled to have such distinguished experts with us today, and we look forward to an enriching and informative session. On behalf of Plexus and all attendees, I would like to extend a warm welcome to Dr. Franks and invite her to commence her presentation.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Novin. And first, let me just start with a big thank you to our colleagues at Plexus for being such great champions for each of you on the screen and for the college search process in general. We have come together this evening literally from all over, and my colleagues and I are excited to be able to spend time with all of you and just thank you for taking time to be with us this evening. Now, one of our goals tonight is to be able to offer you tips that we hope will help you find the college or university that is absolutely right for you. And guess what? All of us working in higher education were your age once, believe it or not. And we know what it's like to open a brochure or a website for a college or university and see photos of really attractive students, all happy, all smiling, all looking great. And the odds are good that you just might think, whoa, look at them. And in truth, they are definitely well worth a closer look. So if a small part of your brain thinks, I wouldn't mind sharing some class time with them, yet deep down, you know the chances of your meeting or even seeing those particular students, if they really are students, are very slim indeed. But those schools don't expect you to send in a paid application because you think you'll be living among students who look like that, attractive, visually representing various ethnicities, definitely smiling and happy, and often you'll notice sitting or standing by a very large tree. While you're thinking, just look how they all get along. They must really love being students there. I bet I would too. The actual goal of comprising that kind of photography and those kinds of videos is simply to get you to look or to read further. Just go a little deeper before jumping to the materials from the next school. Enrolling in a college or university is a big deal. And at times it might simply seem like the next logical step. Get away from your old surroundings, your high school, your parents, and start the adult life that you were meant to have. And it is all of that, but it also is a big investment. Now, not only will you be paying money for several or more years of college, you're going to be investing all those years of your life. And yes, there definitely will be a great return on that investment. But both personally and professionally, it will pay off in millions more in income over your lifetime. It certainly is an investment worth making. And I'm just going to say right out of the gate, I think it's the very best investment you could ever make. For today, I want you to realize that not every college or university is right for you, and you may not be right for them. So, how do you go about selecting which is the right place for you? So, I want to offer what I would call some pro tips for you now, and they're in 3 categories. First, how to find the right college, what I'm going to call your dream college. Second, what your parents should ask. And third, how to make it happen. So, all right, here we go. I'm going to move quickly. It won't surprise you that the very first thing you should do is identify exactly what you want to get out of a college, other than hanging out with very good-looking students and smiling. So spend some time and make a list of specifics about yourself. For example, what are your true interests, your strengths, your goals? Next, try to identify what you think you would most like to study. I mean, what interests you? What do you get excited about in your classes? Then I'm going to encourage you, write down the locations that you want to consider geographically or areas you want to avoid. And finish by jotting down your desired campus size and extracurricular activities that are important to you. Now, in my case, being the president of a smaller, comprehensive, applied liberal arts university, I want to point out that part of the beauty of a liberal arts institution is that it gives you an education that's what I call versatile, that will allow you to change careers if you so choose, that prepares you to work independently, prepares you to work in teams, prepares you to learn new technologies as they appear, which is happening almost daily now. And it prepares you to be valuable in your career and in your community. Now, at a liberal arts school, you will have tremendously diverse areas of study, offering a flavor of things that you might never have considered before. For instance, if you're a computer science student at Averett, for example, you might also decide you want to help paint sets for a theater production, or even sing in an on-stage production. Or not only that, you'll likely be very interested to be able to live and study and play among our students who are majoring in aeronautics, who are flying in one of our 13 airplanes, or in equestrian studies, acquiring all kinds of competitive riding and horsemanship skills. Yes, variety. It makes life interesting. It makes college interesting. Now, another area of interest that is huge at Averett is athletics. Even if you're not a member of one of our 23 NCAA athletic teams competing in the prestigious Old Dominion Athletic Conference, or a member of one of our club teams or organizations, you definitely will catch what it's like to be part of one team and one family. Now, as part of taking stock of the things that matter most to you and seeing if a liberal arts education is the way to go, you definitely should look closely at the academic offerings of the colleges that are known for your desired major or academic program. See which schools give you a great range where you can explore and discover new things that interest you. Now, of course, you need to know your budget and explore financial aid options. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. And a very important tip here that I have to reinforce is please don't rule anything out. You will be surprised how many colleges you think may not be affordable actually are. Scholarships and grants can be incredibly helpful. And by all means, make sure you're comparing living costs as well as tuition rates. Some places are a lot more affordable to live in than in others. Now you'll want to be sure to consider colleges with a culture that aligns with your own personal values. Things like your attitude toward diversity, toward the things that you are passionate about. Even the matter of living in a place like ours that has a strong family atmosphere, where the entire college community is close knit. Some colleges offer that, others are just the opposite. I hope you'll also spend some time looking into each school's alumni network and how it helps students and graduates make valuable connections. For example, Averett boasts more than 29,000 active, successful, and helpful alumni who are always ready to lend advice and a helping hand to other Averett alumni. They're all around the globe. Now, to all of our parents and families with us this evening, let's talk a little bit about the kinds of questions that you need to be asking. I'm going to strongly encourage you to take the steps to find out how accessible professors are to their students and what the student faculty classroom ratio is. That's important. Many students start classes eagerly and then discover that they could benefit from academic support services. Find out in advance what services are available, such as tutoring or special study resources. At Averett, for instance, we go way beyond the norm with dedicated professionals at the ready to offer guidance and support literally every step of the way. It's important to look beyond just tuition costs and make sure to examine all the other added costs, fees, room and board. But as I mentioned earlier, also be sure to search each school that you consider for scholarships, for grants, payment plans, financing options. Those are critical. Now, I strongly encourage you also, you and your student, to take a close look at all the activities outside the classroom that might be appealing and that are already in place for getting involved and making friends. No doubt you and your student are interested also in how many miles away each college under consideration is, as well as whether it's in an urban or a suburban or a rural setting. Also, look into the transportation options for each school's area. Now, these days, more than any other time, perhaps, safety on college campuses is important. It's paramount. At Averett, we're constantly looking for the best ways to ensure all of our Averett family are living and working in conditions and an environment that's safe. And we have policies and procedures and protocols in place in case they ever are not. Something we take very seriously. Schools have to report on crimes in their area and how the events were handled. And those reports are open to the public. You just need to ask for the information. Go on the website. At Averett University, we view our students' time as an investment in the rest of their lives, and we're committed to helping them discover, design, and enter the world of graduate studies and our work right away, starting on day one. We know that internships not only offer just invaluable experience and expertise, but also lead to job offers after graduation. For instance, here we think about it as learn, work, earn. And we're committed to finding and offering outstanding internships and experiences and other off-campus training experiences and apprenticeships for our students. So be sure to find out if the schools you're considering has a strong career services center and internships or co-ops and apprenticeship programs in place and are well established to provide that critical, practical, hands-on experience. It's paramount to us. And ask specifically about the job placement rates for graduates in your student's field of interest. Now learn about the housing options for first-year students and see if there are strong communities within the residence halls. Also investigate parking. That can help or hinder any day your student drives to classes. Many schools don't even allow students to have cars. We certainly do, but again, those are things you want to learn about in advance. Now, we know we're living in a world that is scrambling to operate on a global scale in almost all areas of work and life, and study abroad is a crucial way that we help our students excel in this new world. So how does the college promote diversity? What processes and organizations are in place for this? And are they functioning successfully? What do alumni from the colleges you're considering go on to do after graduation? Are there notable success stories? Are there notable and clear alumni networks? Now, one good strategy is to make sure you're applying to a mix of schools to increase your chances of opportunity. You know, there are those aspirant institutions. We might not get into this one, but we should try. There are match applications. Oh, yes, this one matches exactly what we think would be ideal. And then there are safety applications. This is maybe not the first choice, but it would be okay. And I think we'll get in type schools. Now it's that time for what I'm going to call that magic bullet. Of course, nothing is 100% foolproof, but this truly does provide what I'm going to call the winning technique for finding the very best match to the right college or university. And here it is in one word: visit. Photos and videos and phone conversations and websites and brochures with happy, smiling people only go so far. It often takes less than 1 hour on a visit to feel whether a particular school is right or not. Many, many times I have been told I knew the minute I set foot on the Averett campus that I was in the right spot for me. If you make an in-person visit, I promise you, you quickly will get a feel for the atmosphere of that college or university community. And in person, you can attend information sessions, you can watch or attend games, talk to students, which I think is one of the most important things you can ever do. They're going to tell you the truth in very candid terms, by the way. And when you're visiting and you're on campus, you can walk around the facilities. Again, you get a feel for how that campus would be. Given the size of the commitment you're considering, visiting in person only makes sense. And it really will let you know if it's the right spot for you. I hope these tips have been helpful. We look forward to more conversation. I'm excited for you to get to hear from Matt Mann and Carl Bradsher, and then we'll have time for questions. I just want to say good luck, and please know that all of Averett is right here to support you in this process. Thank you all for giving me a few minutes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Franks. We really appreciate your insights. We already have received a lot of excellent questions. And now, as you mentioned, it is our privilege to turn our attention to Mr. Mann, the Director of Admission at Averett University.
Thank you, Dr. Novin. Well, again, good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew. Again, I'm the Director of Admissions here at Averett, and I'm very passionate about higher ed enrollment, but also really breaking down these walls of what this admissions process is like. I often think about my experiences during the college search and thinking it was one way, I guess the best way to think about it. And when you work on this side of the desk, you kind of get some insight on how things work. So when I started working in higher ed, I decided that I was going to be very transparent and break down those walls for families to kind of really share the insights of what this college admissions process is like. So as we get into some of the things, I like to talk. You're going to find pretty quickly that admissions people are chatty. We like to go on and on. So not a lot of visuals, but again, during my presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A. But just jumping right in, one of the things that we always encourage when it comes to the college admissions process is being proactive. And what we mean by that is we want students to understand that admissions offices, universities must, at this point in time, communicate directly to the student. And so we often know students rely on mom and dad to kind of help out with a lot of these things. So we just want to make sure the students also very proactive in this decision. We understand it's a family decision. We just want to make sure that you're also part of it. And so getting right into it, we get asked the question all the time. You guys are in admissions, you guys read my application, you make decisions, but how else can you help? College admissions has turned into a one-stop shop at a lot of schools, and it's no different here at Avery. We like to we take you all very personal in that sense, so we like to keep you with us. So we don't like to bounce you around from office to office in that sense, but admissions offices should be able to really answer all of your questions, whether it comes from campus visits, as Dr. Franks mentioned, application processes, questions to ask during college visits, financial aid questions, all the above. We're able to really kind of help out with those things. One thing that you may or may not be aware of, that most colleges, admissions counselors are responsible for certain what we call territories, and this is a geographic location. And why is this important for your search? The reason why it's so important is that, at least here at Avery, I can speak on our behalf, in most schools, within these territories, we develop relationships with your local community, with your local guidance counselors, with your local high schools, all those above. So when it comes down to that college scholarship search, we really are there as another resource, right? Those local schools, those local awards, those smaller scholarships that oftentimes go unnoticed, admissions offices are really kind of keepers of a lot of those awards. So we really want to kind of just shed some light on how important admissions can be just in this college search. So we do a little bit more than just kind of read your application. Now, as Dr. Franks mentioned, the number one thing we talk about here at Avery when it comes to making that college decision is the campus visit. So why is the campus visit important? And you'll happen to pop one slide over, you'll see. Those are, go back one more slide for me. So real quick, every one of those schools are different colleges. Every college has brick buildings. They all have white columns. We all look a little bit different. And why is that important? It's because, as Dr. Franks mentioned, lots of us, we do a really good job in making colleges look the part online. And so you need to really see those colleges with your eyes. So if we pop to the next slide, we're going to share a little bit more why the visits are important and why it's such a big part of just the college application process. It may seem just like a simple kind of, hey, I need to figure this thing out, but it really is a huge aspect of this decision. First and foremost, if you look at this little chart here, I'll just explain some of the things. This is some recent data from Ancora, which is the ACT, and still overwhelmingly students want to see campus with their eyes, right? Virtual has become a thing. Lots of students like to visit online, but students really want to see those campuses with their own eyes, see what dorms are like, see what student life is like, still, like I said, talk to people and really getting a feel of what campus culture is like. So when you have an option to visit campus, students usually have multiple types of visits that are available to them. So you may hear things about what's called a private visit. Here at Avery, majority of our students do visit on a private one-on-one tour. We are really hands-on with our families here. And so we want to make sure that when you come to campus, you're getting your questions answered, not just a stock admissions presentation. And so when it comes to those visits, like I said, this is when you're going to sit down one-on-one with admissions. We can set up discovery flights with the aviation center. We can have you meet with faculty. Those visits are really more personable, as I mentioned. Second, most students are going to have the opportunity to visit in some type of open house, or schools call them all types of different names. This is going to be great for families who are wanting to come to campus to get some just general information, right? These are big sessions with lots of people, kind of hard to ask a lot of personal questions. I can just speak on behalf of Avery in the sense that we really do still take that time with families one-on-one during those days. But these events at schools are going to be things that might be specific to major, meaning they might be big open houses for an education department or something like that. So some of these might be a little bit more tailored, some might be more general, but these are usually big public events for everyone. A couple other ideas that you might see things like scholarship events or scholarship days. These are days where college campuses are going to invite students back to campus to compete for scholarship money. So as we're talking about how to earn additional scholarship funds and where those come from, lots of times those colleges are going to kind of keep you in the loop on those questions. And again, why admissions is such a big resource for those types of things. And lastly, as Dr. Franks mentioned, when it comes to things like athletics or music or theater, you might be on recruiting visits or auditions. These are going to be much more one-on-one personal type of experiences, but usually going to have an intent of why you're there, right? You're there to either meet with coaches, you're there to either audition for a music department, things along those lines. Some kind of ideas of the different types of visits you might find yourself on. During the visit, as Dr. Franks mentioned, you're going to kind of develop priorities, right? You're going to kind of figure out what your questions are. How can I ask those questions to admissions and really figure those things out? And then lastly, after the visit, why is the visit important? Again, this is when you start narrowing down those applications. So let's get into the application process. So if you pop to the next slide, we're going to hop right into you're ready to apply. You visited your colleges, you narrowed down to I visited 10, now I'm going to apply to these 5. What does that look like? Well, college applications come in all different shapes and sizes. You're going to find college applications that are free to apply, college applications that have college application fees. You're going to find things like Common App. You're going to find things like self-reported applications. Every school offers things a little bit differently. And this is why it's so important that you're continuing that communication with your admissions office. Again, lots of people like to hold us to put us on a pedestal, but we're really here to get into the trenches with you guys and help you out with these things. So one of the big questions we get asked all the time is about things like essays and references. You're going to find a lot of college applications, you're going to list things as optional. There is no definition of what optional means, in the sense of some colleges are going to say those optionals, you might help if you send those in. Some, it may not matter at all. Again, why it's so important that you're communicating. But we often tell students when it comes to things like essays, go ahead and have, as a tip, go ahead and have maybe 4 or 5 stock essays kind of written. These essays are going to be things that you can tailor per application. That way you're ready to roll when those things come across your desk, when you're ready to start applying. You're not necessarily having to rewrite or recreate all those things. Lastly, references. These are going to be things where you need to make sure these are people that are aware that you're asking them to be a reference, right? We often have a joke that most students don't ask anyone who doesn't like them to write those references, but we want to make sure, again, that those are things that you really have thought out. These are people that know you well. These are people who know the things that you've done and things you've accomplished in high school. And so making sure these people can really speak on your behalf and the things that you're capable of doing. So I know one of the questions I got asked was test optional. I saw that in the chat earlier. Test optional is something that you're gonna see more and more and more. And does it really mean, again, that you're test optional? Standardized testing is a great way of kind of evening the playing field, but it's always not an indicator of the student that you are. We understand that might be the one Saturday you sat down for a test after a homecoming football game or whatever it might be. So schools are kind of look at those differently, but they are still a great indicator of, a great way of evening the playing field when it comes to those things. Schools, when they say they're test optional, they mean they're test optional, meaning that there's transcripts that you're going to see the transcripts that you have are going to be things that are really going to tell the story of who you are. It's going to give a full 4-year or 3-year picture of who you are as a student when you're applying, and it's something that we want to see. And lastly, the one thing I would kind of leave you all with is when you're looking at college applications, you're going to see lots of different dates and deadlines and definitions and those types of things. Know that some of those have some meaning behind them. So really quickly, you might see things when you're applying to colleges, things like early decision or early action. You need to ask the question, are these binding decisions? Some schools will require that if you apply early decision, you must go to that school as part of their kind of policies. These are sometimes you're going to find out these decisions before Thanksgiving, before Christmas at a lot of schools. And then other schools are going to offer what's called more of a regular decision. This is going to be those decisions offered afterwards that are going to either obviously not be binding, but allow you to kind of make a decision when those come in. Those usually are going to fall sometime between February and March. And lastly, for schools like Averett, we're almost called rolling admissions, which means we make decisions every single day. I like to think of it in the sense that we're really here to meet you when you're ready to make your decision. So if you're ready to go ahead and make your decision now, we're going to read your application now. If you need some time to kind of get those things in, we're open when you're ready to get those in. But again, for us, we often encourage students, the earlier the better, especially as Mr. Brasher is going to share when it comes to scholarships. The earlier you can kind of hop into that scholarship process and the scholarship pools, the better. And so happy to continue answering questions about college tips and application tips and things along those lines in the chat. So feel free to let me know how I can help. Thank you all.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Mann. You covered a lot. Certainly, people are going to have a lot of questions, and they've been asking a lot of questions. And it is my great pleasure to now introduce the Director of Financial Aid at Averett University, Carl Bradshaw. Carl has been in this role for over 30 years, and 23 years of it were at Averett University. Mr. Bradshaw, please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. Let me move this. It's covering up some of my slide here. Okay. Good evening, everyone. There's a lot of changes that's happening for 24-25, especially with the FAFSA. The FAFSA is short for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And this form is probably the most important form that you're going to fill out, especially if you're interested in applying for federal student aid. Now, federal student aid is not just limited to Pell Grant, also student loans, federal work study. You know, we have work study students at Averett. They work at our North Campus at our aviation center. It's a good way to earn a little extra money. So if you don't complete the federal student aid application, you know, you're never going to know if you qualify for some of these different federal student aid programs. You know, one of the questions that I get a lot is, I make too much money and I shouldn't apply for a FAFSA. Well, federal student aid comes in different forms. And just as I mentioned, scholarships, grants, loans, and work study. So you may think you don't qualify, but there's other programs that you may qualify also. And even at Averett and most universities, need-based aid. And we can't determine need-based aid until you complete a FAFSA. We want to make sure that when we put that first offer out to the student, we just want to make sure that not only merit aid or scholarships or grants, but also federal student aid is included in that offer that we send you. Also, some of the new changes that should make things easier for students and families to apply for federal student aid and to streamline the process. The availability, if you don't already know, the FAFSA the last probably 10 years has been available October 1st. That's changing for 24-25. It's not going to be available until December of 23. We're not sure of the exact date yet, but when we know, we're going to post that to our website and get something out to everyone to let you know it's time to apply. Log into studentaid.gov and have your 22 tax information to apply for the 24-25. Also, there's a major change, and just like I've been in the business for 30 years, and it's always been estimated family contribution. Well, it's been replaced by student aid index. And the SAI is just a different way to determine eligibility. It's still going to be processed on tax return, whether it's the student, whether it's the parent, gross income, family size, number in college. Those things are not changing, but it's just a new name. You're not going to see EFC anymore. Now, the good thing about making this change, it expands the federal Pell Grant program. All the analysis that we've done and all the reports that we've done, it tells us that those students who qualify for 22-23 that maybe didn't qualify for 22, 23 or the last 2 years may qualify going forward. So that's a positive thing that more students will qualify with this expanded SAI, the way to determine eligibility. Streamlining the process, you're going to see fewer questions than you've ever seen before. Currently, it's 108 questions. They're going to streamline that down to 36 questions. Okay, so that's a big change. Even if you're a parent and you went to school years ago, the application had over 100 questions. So they really streamlined the question, should make the process a lot easier. Also, you have the availability to transfer tax information from the IRS. So they made that process even simpler. So my advice would be, instead of using your tax returns, is just use that option when you get to that option. And that should eliminate less verification. Okay, I don't know if you heard about verification. What happens is students may be picked for verification and we have to verify tax information. But if you use what we call the data retrieval, transferring tax information, that should eliminate a lot of extra paperwork, extra documentations that schools are going to need. So if you're given that option and you're eligible, I would use that option. Also, parents without a social security number, it's really been big. They couldn't apply for what we call a federal student aid ID. The student needs a federal student aid ID and at least one of the parents. My advice is both parents apply for a federal student aid ID, just in case one parent can't sign, parent number 2 can sign. This should speed up the process for online students that didn't have a social security number in the past to submit it online. Currently, you can't submit online without a social security number. Rather, you have to print it, sign it, mail it, and you know about that process. It takes a lot longer for that process to get, for the form to get processed. Also, it's going to increase aid eligibility for single parents. So that's something new with this new FAFSA simplification. Like I said, it should reduce the likelihood of verification, and it's a new formula. So students that maybe were borderline last year may qualify this year. So there's a lot of changes going on, and we're just talking about just a few of the changes. But I really like what I see, and I really think it's going to change the process and make it streamlined. And like I said, fewer questions, transfer tax information will be the difference. Next slide, we're going to talk about scholarship tips for applying for scholarships. Always use a free scholarship search site. Okay. I mean, students can take advantage of not only just the ones that you see listed here, FastWeb, Plexus, and College Board, Sallie Mae, US News. There's a variety of search engines out there. Okay. If you see that they're asking for a credit card or they're asking for you to pay, you don't want to do that. Okay. You want to take advantage of all of the free sites. Okay. And if you have any questions about that, you can always call, the financial aid office. You can always call the university, and we can help you with these particular sites. Local organizations. It's so many local scholarships out there. Local organizations, nonprofits, high schools. You want to take advantage of, especially in high school. And normally high schools have a list of scholarships. And you want to make sure that you apply for those scholarships and meet those deadlines. Okay. And normally local scholarships are often less competitive than national scholarships. Okay. So 9 times out of 10, your odds are a lot better. Okay. But deadlines are deadline. So you want to make sure that, that you're applying for these scholarships, whether it's churches, local clubs, you really want to meet those deadlines. Okay. Also contact the colleges about institutional scholarships. We award various institutional scholarships, whether it's presidential scholarships, founder scholarships. Universities may have different names for those particular scholarships, and it may be part of the application process, just like what Matthew said. Part of that application process, normally we determine whether you qualify for some of these institutional scholarships. But in that second sentence, it says some families select not to apply because, like I said, they think that they won't qualify for different reasons, but not often the case. Okay, you still may qualify for some institutional scholarships that may not be based on need. That's why it's so important for you to complete the FAFSA. That's why it's so important for you to complete the application. Then we can make that determination and send out an offer that works best for you, but you have to apply. Okay, so number one, you have to apply, and that's the only way that you're going to find out if you qualify for any other institutional scholarships other than completing the FAFSA. Next slide. Earner merit scholarships. Okay, merit scholarships normally academic performance. Matthew talked about that during the admissions process. What happens at Avery is, and at most universities, as students apply for the university, they get accepted, then we're looking at GPAs, SAT scores in some cases, and then we're making that determination is what do you qualify based on merit scholarship, okay? And that's normally the first scholarship that you're going to receive from most universities, okay? So it's sent out by the schools or some private organizations. You may have some private organizations that send out merit scholarships, okay? Apply for scholarships based on majors. That's really, really big. My advice would be is to go out to the university's website and look for these particular scholarships. Now, I just listed a few: education, biology. Dr. Franks mentioned about aviation, a lot of aviation scholarships, equestrian, athletic training, nursing, very big program. Okay, you're going to see a lot of scholarships in applied health sciences. Okay, they're going to have deadlines, and those deadlines are going to hold true. So you really want to go out there and apply now. You're going to start seeing these scholarships come available in the next couple months, and the deadlines are probably going to run over until the spring of the year. So you don't want to miss those deadlines. Take advantage of employer scholarships. Okay, for example, we just mentioned here Taco Bell, ExxonMobil, McDonald's, Walmart. It's different companies. Now, not only may have scholarships, but they may have tuition reimbursement plans also. Okay, we work very closely with Duke University, and a lot of the students, Duke has a tuition reimbursement plan for students. So for their dependents. So that's a good way of having at least part of tuition paid. It may not be the full tuition, and it may be a certain amount, but you want to explore those options also. Also, the private sector, okay, federal government, state government, local government. You want to find out where your parents work, they have scholarships for dependents, or they have tuition reimbursement plans. Dr. Franks mentioned, tuition fees, room and board, which is now housing and food. You want to put together a package not only with institutional scholarship, not only with federal student aid, but there could be a gap, okay? And you might want to think about how you're going to cover that gap. Well, a way to cover that gap could be one of these outside scholarships, okay? Especially local scholarships. I mean, I know in Danville, there's plenty of local scholarship that our students qualify for. And those students that really take advantage of that really see the benefits long term. Okay. So my advice would be early, often, and quick. Don't put off for tomorrow that you can do today, because the one thing about scholarship deadlines, there are deadlines, and they normally don't extend deadlines. Okay, they want to make sure that you get these funds way in advance before the fall starts. Okay, because you remember the spring is a short window that we have to get things ready for the summer, because you got orientation that Matthew talked about. You got, check-in days. If you're an athlete, you got to, you have to come early. So there's a lot you have to do, especially in the spring of the year. So that's the reason why a lot of these scholarship organizations, they cut them off right around April. They want to make sure that you get those funds as soon as possible, so you can make a decision that you have enough money to cover, tuition fees, housing, food, and other expenses, which could be travel, it could be any kind of personal expenses. So what I want to leave you with tonight is, number one, is the FAFSA. I can't stress the importance of being ready in December. Okay, so if you need to get all your tax information together, you just need to be ready when that day happens. Okay, and like I said, we would notify you. We'll put it on the website. Universities are sitting back waiting for that date so they can notify all the prospective students, all the returning students. Because remember, we got two groups of students here. We got new students and we got returning students. So we have to notify both of those different groups when it's time to apply for federal student aid. If you have any questions, just put them in the Q&A. Definitely, you're going to get all of our contact information. Feel free to email us. We'll definitely email you back, send you links if we need to send you links. Thank you for having me tonight. And like I said, I could talk for hours about financial aid, but we just don't have that time tonight. So just a short, brief introduction about the FAFSA. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Franks, Mr. Mann, and Mr. Batcher. Even though I've heard this stuff over and over again in my life, this was definitely enlightening, and I'm sure our attendees are going to enjoy this and find it useful as well. So please don't leave. We have about 13 minutes left. We want to cover a few items here, and it's important in terms of, I'll be asking each panelist a question. There's a lot of questions. All the questions will get emailed to everyone who's attended the session too. But we're just going to cherry pick a few, and then we're going to address. We'll talk briefly about the scholarships, the $1,000 and the $5,000 one, and then we'll provide you with the personal contact information for all of our panelists. So, Dr. Franks, first question is, this is a two-part question. One is, do I need to know what major or career I want before applying? And also, I'm interested in small school because I want to build a relationship. How could Averett help me with this?
Oh my, I love the question. I would say we want our students to have multiple majors and minors. I will say one of the things I love witnessing at Averett is how our students commonly have at least two majors and several minors. So that's a really common experience for our students here. And what was the second part of the question? Forgive me, Dr. Novin.
No problem.
I've been in the midst of answering so many questions that quickly, so forgive me.
Do I need to know what major and what career I'm after before applying?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do I need to know what major?
Right.
No. And I'm going to say emphatically, no. That's the purpose of college. We want students to come and to explore their interests. I can't tell you. I mean, we're so blessed at Averett. I'll give you just an example. My husband and I have been blessed for 15 years now. During our time, we have our freshman class in small groups come to our home for dinner. What I hear over and over and over again are students who, for the first time, say they're loving they love their classes. They're with faculty who are passionate about what they're teaching. And I hear students say, they had no idea when they came here what they might study, but because of courses that they're really enjoying and passionate faculty, they suddenly their eyes are just open to all kinds of possibilities. So no, emphatically no, we do not need to know what we want to major in or be. That's the purpose of college. Come with an open mind is what I would say.
Thank you so much. The next question is for Mr. Mann. These are about dual enrollment credits, Matthew. So one is, do you accept dual enrollment credits from Christian colleges? And do you accept out-of-state dual enrollment credits?
So thank you. So absolutely, as I've been answering those questions, we, at least here at Averett, we offer as much reciprocity when it comes to dual enrollment or transfer credits as possible. We often tell students, as long as your college is regionally accredited, you have no worries at all that those are going to transfer. So whether it's Christian colleges, community colleges, technical schools, if those schools have a regional accreditation, there's no issue at all when it comes to those dual enrollment credits.
I guess since you answered that fairly fast, I'll ask the second question. Every student needs to complete an internship while they're enrolled at Averett.
Yeah, so when it comes to internships here at Averett, while they're not required, they are highly recommended for every major. Every major is going to offer an internship placement of some type. And actually every major is going to be able to offer internship credit that's a college bearing credit when it comes to the program. So for instance, I'll give you a great example of what my internships were. And my internships were at the federal government through Social Security because I was a marketing major. So I spent my entire summer marketing Social Security programs in communities, whether it was through trade shows or whether it was through community organizations or community events. So I was able to earn that college credit just through that program, and it completed a couple courses for me. Also here at Averett, you're going to have internship placements and help with internship placements coming at you from every different direction. So whether it's with faculty helping because they have a connection in the industry they want to try to get you connected with, whether it's our hospitality program trying to get you connected with Caesars or any other type of bigger organization that we can, or whether it's the CCECC, which is our center here on campus for community engagement and career competitiveness, is going to allow students to find a plethora of internship placements. So whether they want to help find them on their own, they need a little bit of help, we're going to be able to help that placement in any way possible. But again, something that we highly encourage every student to take part in. You're going to want some applicable skills of those degrees that you're earning. But most schools are not going to make them requirements. But again, they're highly suggested.
Thank you so much. Carl, these two questions are for you. It's regarding Fafsa. Do you have to complete the Fafsa if you do not intend to taking any financial aid? That's one. Also, can I complete my Fafsa if I'm only a junior in high school?
Okay. To answer the first question, you don't have to complete the FAFSA, but I would recommend you complete the FAFSA, especially if schools have, need-based grant, and need-based grants may be determined by the FAFSA. So even if you're not going to use federal student aid, I would complete the FAFSA.
Okay, and how early can you start the FAFSA? I mean, can you be a junior in high school or she?
I would wait to their senior year, okay? Because you're not going to be able to do anything with the FAFSA if you apply your junior year. You still have another year before you can use it, because it's not gonna, if you apply for it this year for 24-25, you're gonna have to come back in 25-26 and complete a new FAFSA. So only complete the FAFSA your senior year.
Perfect. So we've had over 80 questions. We're gonna organize those questions, put the answers and email it to everyone. So on to the fun stuff. So this is super exciting. Averett offers $1,000 scholarship for anyone who enrolls, who visits Averett and ends up enrolling at Averett. That will go towards your tuition. Plexus Foundation is also awarding a $5,000 scholarship to one of the attendees to these workshops, which will be sent directly to Carl once that's determined. So by tomorrow, please look out for an email that's going to explain that and bring links for you. But the next Averett on-campus visit is coming up September 30th, 2023. So they have frequent visits, but this is coming up. So if you could attend, I'm sure you could even meet with one of our panelists if you join as well. And last not least, I do want to say that I was so impressed by the panelists. They are definitely involved with the students. Not every university provides their personal information, certainly not presidents. President Franks has provided her email, phone number, so has Mr. Mann and Mr. Bradshaw. I'm going to keep these here for you. So if you want to copy and paste that, go ahead. And you could reach out to them directly. So I want to thank everyone for joining. There's nearly 300 attendees on this workshop. We're happy. We hope that you've enjoyed the workshop. It's been informative. Dr. Franks, do you want to lead us with the last word to this workshop?
I'd be honored to. What a joy it has been for me, for Matt and Carl to be with all of you. I hope whether it is through the conversation we've had or through the question and answer portion where we've been feverishly trying to respond, I hope you are getting a sense of the personal. You see how personal we are. I always say Averett is about relationships, relationships, relationships. I came here tonight directly from what we call our senior pinning ceremony. And this is where our seniors select somebody, a faculty member, a staff member, a coach, who's been instrumental in their college career. And my whole thing tonight, it was all cheers and all tears. And that's who we are. Again, we're very, very personal. And, here just last week, we had 4 freshman dinners at our home. And it's, we know what it means to share a meal together and to sit in the living room and find out what students are enjoying and loving the most about their Averett experience and what would they like to start or change or improve. And we've been doing that for 15 years. And I can't tell you how this place just thrives around its family atmosphere. And so tonight's just been a joy for us. It really has. And we really hope you'll come visit us. Hopefully we'll see a number of you on September 30th. And then also just stay tuned to just keep up with admissions and we've got a number of other visit options, and we welcome you for a private visit if that's what you would prefer. However you would like to visit, we would just love to have you. I wish all of you, all 278 of you, just the best of luck through this process. Whether Averett is in your future, whether you're considering 10 other options, know that we're here to support you. And we just wish you all the very best. This is an exciting time in your lives. And to our parents and families, we wish you the best. We know this is a major, major decision. And I know at Averett, I look at our parents and families at every admissions event, and I say, you would be entrusting us with your most precious being. And there is nothing more important to us than in taking that most seriously. So with that, thank you all. Thank you again to Plexus. And you guys are awesome. And to the 278 on the screen, Plexus is your friend. They're here to support you and help you in this journey also. Thank you, Dr. Novin.
Our pleasure. We're going to leave the poll open for another until the top of the hour. I see about 239 out of the 265 have completed it. Please complete the poll so we could start doing the work on our end. Thanks again, everyone. Wishing everyone a wonderful evening. Thank you.